everybody's ready and everybody is happy, we'll get going. So, welcome everyone. Thanks for dropping in. This is going to be the third episode in our podcast series. So, yes, sorry for the few minutes delay, but yeah, I had to do my mum's dinner and a couple of other things. But we're going now. So, today we have Sarcastic Bulldog, my brother Richard, myself, Kev, who's that way, because I hate this because it reverses stuff, and then Orician's going to be our little black box in the sky.
Yep,
I
in the
assure
dark.
you he has a physical being as well as a spiritual being in this world.
Keep
although
those
he
three.
exists here as a big black box. He does exist. He's not a figment of our imagination. We're not hearing things. Thank you for the host, Preston. Much appreciated. Heckles. So yeah, today we've got various things on the agenda, and I'll bring that up now for you guys. So for today's episode, we're going to start with our introductions, which we've just done. We're going to talk a little bit about what we've been playing, games that we're like hoped for in the next couple of months, and that we just so desperately want to get our hands on. Follow that by some industry discussion, and this time it's going to be on microtransactions, and in particular we're going to be taking a look at the case study of the Shadow of War situation and how that's kind of unfolded over the last couple of months. And then we're going to have a little interview with Orician, our delightful guest, and then if there's time we will do the Kickstarter GG stuff, and then we'll have a little roundup and some after show gaming for those that want to stick about. So hopefully you guys will enjoy. So let's get it all kicked off with what we've been playing. Who wants to get us started? Any volunteers?
Ladies first.
Oh, you're gonna play that card, are you?
Always
You're gonna play that card.
Always do.
Oh,
I'm a gentleman and a scholar.
Okay. So, what have I been playing? I'm playing Blue Collar Astronaut at the moment, which is a game that was released beginning of the year, which is like it's a physics game where you take the role of someone in a blue collar job, pizza delivery, taxi, all sorts of weird jobs, and basically it's kind of like a social commentary on those kind of jobs. And your idea is you got to pay off your loan, you got to pay off your student loan. As silly as that seems, but it's really funny. It's got a good sense of humour. It's a really fun game. I'm really enjoying it. I've got a lot more to play because I'm terrible at the game and I've spent way too long on it mucking up the tutorial levels, because it's not the kind of game I'm used to. I've been playing a lot of Total War recently because I'm going into a tournament in a couple of weeks' time for that. So I still haven't worked out what faction I'm going to play, because once you play your first match, you're faction locked. So I have no idea what I'm going to play at the moment. I'm still trying to fathom it out. I'm kind of in a toss-up between Empire, Greenskins, and Beastmen at the moment. So that's what I'm kind of thinking about. So I'm kind of thinking about what comps I can make and how I can make it work. And then I've been playing a lot of Ark. Way too much Ark, probably, to be honest. Been playing on a PvP server, and it's been interesting, to say the least. So that's mine. What about you, Spud?
Spud?
I'm going to call you Spud. That's your nickname for today.
Okay. Well, I've been playing Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Which is...
At least you have access to it, unlike PC gamers.
It's better than the first one. It's got more story.
Well, that's a start.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good with other people. It's more of a co-op experience. Apart from that, I finished Uncharted Lost Legacy on PS4. That was good. It's more Uncharted. That's it, really.
Where does it sit on the scale of Uncharted, though? Like, is it bottom run of the ladder, top end, or are we somewhere in the middle?
It's probably in the middle. It's kind of... It's not necessary, but it's more the same, more fun. I mean, like, they literally replicate the train section from, I think it's the second or third one, and they redo that in Lost Legacy again, and it's like, still fun though.
So it's alright. You
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So it
good.
wasn't a bad experience. It was an
Yeah.
alright one. It's
Apart
just
from that-
more of the same. It's a bit like Far Cry, right?
Yeah.
You just get more of the same every time.
Yeah. Apart from that, I've not really played much else.
Okay. So on to the Kev stuff.
Ark and PUBG.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh, and Overwatch. And Rocket League.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Any good at it?
Which one?
Any of them?
One the Ark one. I've been playing on PvE server. We might have too many wyverns. We have about 20 wyverns that we tamed up in a matter of 2 days. And we have another 20 more wyverns that we need to hatch. So, yeah. Rocket League, I've been slowly getting up to silver gold rank. And Overwatch, I've been... Well, on PS4, I'm doing decent. I'm like silver gold level. But for PC, I've been on a losing streak, so I'm bronze. As in, like, oh hey, I went from like end of last season I was like 1,500, 1,600, and now I'm down to like 1,100, like 1,100 right now. Because I've lost like 10 games in a row because of teammates that don't know how to play. It makes you cry on the inside.
Poor thing. Aww. Anything else? That all of it?
Just phone games, but that's it.
Okay. So on to you, Orician, then.
Well, it's not been really interesting. I've mainly been playing some Guild Wars 2.
Oh my gosh, Guild Wars.
Yeah, basically because of the new expansion they released like 2 days ago.
Ah, right. Yeah, I had an email about that. I'd never looked into it. Is it any good?
It's so good. I've literally cried during the story.
Oh.
It's so emotional.
Oh my gosh, that makes me want to get back into it now. God dang it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh, I missed
And
that.
during the rest of the week, I was just grinding gear for Guild Wars, getting ready.
Fair enough. Oh, that's so tempting now. I want to go back and play it. Oh, dang it. Well, I know who to go to if I want someone to play with on Guild Wars 2.
Hands up if you've never played Guild Wars before,
Yeah,
period.
who in chat's play Guild Wars? I'd be interested to know. Give us
I
a
have
wave or a
not.
clapper if you have. We'd love to know.
Is it good?
Because I know I have.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
I
I
don't
just
even
didn't
know
get
what
very
it's
far
like
into it.
or about.
I just wasn't able to get far.
I mean, the main game is free to play, so if you want to check it out, just
I do
download.
like free.
Yeah.
Free's very good.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Well, now's a good time to check it out then if people are interested. See what they like. So, now we've finished kind of what we've played. Should we move on to what we're looking forward to playing in the next couple of months? Let's say up till kind of the end of the year, November, I guess. Yeah, should we? Yeah, cut off November.
Okay.
So, looking at you.
Me?
Muppets start first.
Okay. You're
He
the
played.
Muppet.
He played the Putting over. He played the woman one. I'm playing the Muppet one. I'm playing the Muppet card. So go.
I don't know what you're talking about, but okay.
Milk. The Milk card.
Yeah, all right. Right. October, big one. South Park, The Fractured But Whole.
I completely forgot that was coming out.
Yes, 17th of October.
Whoops.
Cannot wait.
I'm gonna have to wait and see. I want to get that, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna have the money for it.
It looks awesome.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, it's all like superhero orientated now, isn't it?
So a lot of parodying of the Marvel universe. And
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And did I hear right? You can play as the bad guy, essentially. Like you can pick your side or something.
You can choose from Cartman or Carl's side.
Right. Okay.
I think.
So there's a bit of choice then.
Yeah.
So you can be like anti-heroes and
I think-
superheroes.
Whichever way you choose, it's like a different story, kind of.
Okay, that would add
I
some replayability then.
From what I gather, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Also that month is Assassin's Creed Origins. More Assassin's Creed, I guess. Might be
You
good.
ordered that one, or?
Not yet, but
Right.
might do. Not sure yet.
Fair enough.
Also in October is Mario Odyssey for the Switch, which is like another good game for the Switch finally, which is all good. November's Call of Duty. Not super excited about that, but it'll be alright. Probably.
It'll be okay. It'll be just more of the same.
Well, the beta was.
Did you played it then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of typical Call of Duty. Just get your ass kicked constantly because everybody's.
Oh, that's one way to look at it.
There's this pool of people who just play it too much and you just can't beat them.
Fair enough. Anything else? Is that all?
No, I think that's
Yeah, that's about
till
it for you.
November, yeah.
Okay, so what about you, Orician?
I've not really been looking forward to anything actually this year. I mean, we're going into the winter season as well, so it's probably gonna be more music for me.
So you're gonna be busy with your music.
Yeah,
Stuff.
it's gonna be a busy couple of months.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Fair enough. You still gonna be keeping up on the CS and all that?
I might play a couple of games, but I don't know. We'll see.
Fair enough. I'm sure they'll have more cases out soon enough. They've just released one, haven't they? The Spectrum 2.
Yeah, I believe so.
Did you check that out?
I've not checked the case out yet. I've been playing some CS through the last 2 weeks, and I've been on a giant losing streak. It's horrible.
Me and you both. I haven't played much, but when I've played, it's not been good. It's not been good.
Yeah.
I think the reaction to the case was fairly mixed, from what I remember. There was things like leaded glass skin, and there was a couple of nice ones, but not like a huge amount. So I don't think people were particularly enthralled by it. If that
Well, I
makes
mean
sense.
the AK that they added is really nice, but that's
Yeah.
basically the only skin I recognize.
Yeah. Oh gosh, sorry, I'm so tired today. Oh, it's been one of those
Staying
days.
professional.
Oh yeah. I just need like 10 cups of coffee or tea or something just to keep me going. Just it's been a long week back at work. Oh right. Anyway, Kev, what's your interests for the next couple of months?
I think I haven't I don't normally pay attention all that much to games coming out, but Pokken Tournament that came out 2 days ago looks interesting, so I might pick that up in a few days for Switch.
Okay.
But other than that, there's nothing really that I find interesting except for maybe Payday 2 on the Switch in a few months.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting to see how that one runs. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I was
Payday's
like,
gone downhill
what?
really bad, which is it's not something I want to say, but it's been going downhill for a long time. I think with the
Yeah.
content and some of the choices they made. I'm just not impressed with some of the things they've done. I think it's a bit late now. I think all the really, really core community have left now as well, which makes it difficult for them to get back their position. Really,
Yeah.
which is a bit of a shame. It'd be interesting to see how it runs on the Switch. But
Hopefully
I mean, it'll
less
be the usual
bugs than
visual downgrade
PS4.
and all that, won't
Yeah.
it?
What if there's a Mario, Luigi DLC for it on Switch, and you could play as Mario
While you
robbing
heist a
banks?
bank.
Yes, that needs.
Well,
And
the
there's,
thing is, they did the rabbits thing and they gave him a gun, so nothing's beyond the realms of possibility. But
Let's have
Just play like Mario and Luigi kidnapping Peach, something like that.
oh god,
Yeah,
your heist is in another castle, your heist is in another vault or something.
yeah, well, let's have an
And
R-rated Nintendo game. Why not?
Oh my god. Yeah, just go the whole hog with it. It's just Let's
And,
just
like,
go
the tank
crazy.
guys
Let's
are
let's have a Metal Gear Solid character breathe through a skin having a shower. Let's have Mario's hat on a guy with a gun. just
You can just
go
jump on
crazy
enemies
with
and
it.
decapitate
Just
them.
you know, we'll add dragons and we'll add, I don't know, more big weapons and tits and God knows what else. I don't know.
Well, I would be down with it.
So
It'd just be so
What?
anti-Nintendo, anti-typical Nintendo.
When I
Hi,
learn how to code,
here's the generally
make
the
it
most
not.
conservative platform, but we're just gonna put this really weird game on it for funsies.
when
Then
I learn how
again,
to
fucking
code,
tournaments are all
I'm gonna
about
make a
fighting.
dragon.
Granted, they don't give them big ass guns.
Yeah, it's cartoon violence.
Yeah, so that kind of
It's
plays it down a
Pokemon.
little bit. Yeah, but it's
I mean,
still
they don't die. They faint.
technically Pokemon is animal abuse.
Yeah, but
if you want to get funny about it.
as I say, they don't die. They faint. It's okay.
Mm. Yeah, you just beat them till they're knocked out. Leave them alive. Horrible scars from their experiences being over and over thrown into an arena against their will. You know, 'cause
They
that's
like it.
fine. Anything else, Kev?
Nope.
Nope, that's everything?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Right.
That's it.
So for me, with the new releases, Assassin's Creed, obviously, Egypt. I'm gonna really, really love that, or I'm gonna really, really hate it. And my reason why, I know that sounds really contradictory, but
That's every video game ever.
but no. But there's a good reason I say that, and that's because I obviously haven't been privy to too much of the ahead of scheme content stuff. What I've seen looks good, and has me hopeful. But the thing is, I'm a massive nut for mythology and ancient Egypt and all that. So I'm quite pedantic with that stuff. And my worry is it's not going... I mean, it's a fantasy game, you know. So you got to give it some leeway. But if they have poor interpretations of, say, the gods and the roles they play, and, you know, I might get a little bit annoyed, if you get what I mean. No doubt they've researched it and all that, but they're going to come up with their interpretation of what they want to do with it, which is fair enough. It's just how much leeway am I willing to give them is the question. And how close to kind of the historical element of how, you know, like the priests and the religion element and the core aspects of their culture are they going to represent properly. That's going to be really, really interesting for me. I think regardless, I'll still enjoy the game. It's just there might be a few moments where I want to potentially hit my face on my desk a few times, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I've got my hopes held for that one. I've got my hopes held. But yeah, I think there will be some head smashing, regardless, potentially. So we'll see. Like I say, that is why I'm not looking forward to it, because of potential head smashing, getting annoyed. But I'm hopeful overall it's going to be a really nice experience. I know they're taking a really different direction with the way it plays out. And that it's a lot more, was it RPG I think they were going through? And they're more focused on story. So I think that's a good way to go. I think that'll be really good. And it's a bit more of a directed experience rather than just his sandboxes, a ton of side stuff, get on with it. There's obviously going to be some of that, but I think it's going to play lesser extent into it, which will be nice. So we'll see. We'll see. Then next on my list, it's coming out in like 4 days, is Total War Warhammer 2. My pre-order's going to be arriving tomorrow, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm probably going to do an unboxing video on that. I'm going to see how much time I can find, because I've still got the Hide and Street vids to do, and I've still got the next Kickstarter GG, and I'm still working on a couple of reviews, so I've got a high turnover of content I'm working on at the moment. But yeah, so I'm gonna be opening that tomorrow, and I'm gonna really look forward to and enjoy kind of seeing it all. And like I say, the game's gonna come out in a few days' time. I'm so hyped for it. I've been watching a lot of Pixelated Apollo and Lionheart's videos of it, and just the preview of it, and of course the official Total War as well. And oh my gosh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. It's gonna be so good. I'm so hyped for it. And I don't like getting on the hype train with things normally because that leads to disappointment 9 times out of 10. But the guys at
We
Creative
know you're a
Assembly are great.
hipster.
Hmm?
We know you're a hipster. Just say it.
Wow,
You don't-
thanks a bunch. If anyone's a hipster, it's Milk Boy here.
How am I hipster? Thank you.
You're the one going around with the jeans and the and all the rest of it. Anywho, right, we'll leave that debate for another time. That's a brother sisterly. I'm gonna kick your ass.
She thinks she wins these arguments.
I always win these arguments. You know that. You know that.
You say so.
Anywho, right, moving on. What else? There was something else that I can't remember now. God dang it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I can't remember now. Oh my gosh. I'm so yawning. Ugh. Right. Are we pretty much covered? Is there anything anyone else wants to talk about? I can't think of what I was going to say. If anybody's got anything they're looking forward to in chat, let us know. I'd love to know what you're looking forward to, what you're planning to play in the next couple of months. Be really nice to know. I'll have to have a look at my Steam library and work. Oh, I have remembered now. I've just remembered. Just typical.
We'll say it then.
Beginning of November. It's not a new game, but it's an expansion pack for a game.
Okay.
And it is Cats and Dogs for The Sims 4. Because I love my pets. I'm annoyed there's no horses in it, though.
Oh.
Really, really annoyed they've ditched the horses. That really got on my nerves. But it will be so nice to have pets back. And they've done an extra thing. They're adding veterinary career path. And it's a proactive career path. So you actually do the day-to-day. Hey, Sam. So you do the day-to-day on it, which is really, really nice. So I'm really looking forward to that. One of the first things I'm going to do beginning of the month, obviously November, I'm going to set up a character specifically to be a veterinarian and probably murder all the patients by accident. Probably get fired. And I'll probably have my dogs taken into a shelter or something. I don't know, but yeah, it'll be
You'll
nice.
kind of be like the mum from Rick and Morty. She'll be like the horse doctor.
I don't know
You
what
won't
that
get that
is.
reference,
No,
will you?
because I don't
But
watch
that's
Rick and
fine.
Morty. I have no clue. Oh, Need for Speed. Yeah. Sorry, Hendolph's just said Need for Speed. I completely forgot about that. When's that coming out?
November.
Okay.
But you know they're copying Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Well, it's just been announced the guys who've made Project Cars 2.
Oh, right, yeah.
They've got a 6-year license deal with the company that makes Fast and Furious.
Mhm.
So there's definitely going to be a Fast and Furious game from them.
Oh.
And they've recently said in an interview that EA tried to destroy them, and that's the reason they're trying to get
They're going to
payback.
get back at them.
They're getting payback now, so
Oh, it's going to be interesting. Hey, Porky. So that's going to be interesting to see how
Little
that
story
plays
there.
out in the next couple of years then.
Mm.
That could lead to some interesting...
well, no, it's just
it could lead to some interesting developments as
What's
developments
interesting
as well.
to see, Need for Speed is trying to imitate Fast and Furious, but they're going to be actually making a Fast and Furious game, which is going to be the better.
Yeah, what's going to be interesting though is how they up their game, because obviously we had things like The Crew, and then there's like another Crew, isn't there?
The most pointless sequel ever,
Yeah,
because the Crew one
But-
was shit.
but this little bit of Fast and Furious debacle might actually get people to up their game on the whole. Because for me personally, like, I think the driving games have got a bit dry recently. There's been a couple of really good F1 games recently. There was a rally game. Was it Dirt Rally or something?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, I really enjoyed that, but it was a bit very narrow scoped, and obviously it was specific to rallying. I don't know, but then like I say, you got things like The Crew and all that. It's just a bit copy pasty. I don't want to say that because it's not exactly what it is, but do you get what I mean? It's just like the same stuff every time, and
This is my inner like American coming out. Did they make a NASCAR game recently? Because it's been a while since I've heard about.
there was a NASCAR game. I can't remember how many years ago that was though.
I think
okay.
there was a recent one. It only
NASCAR
got-
PC game.
I think I only got a digital release over here in the UK.
To the Googles.
Yep, I'm having a look. I'm having
Because
a
I
look. I'm
remember I
failing
played
terribly.
one on PS2. Oh yeah, NASCAR Heat 2.
NASCAR Racing 2017? Is that it?
Probably.
NR 2017 is a racing sim. Yeah, that's probably it then. Published by NASCAR Media Group on Xbox One, PlayStation 4 and Steam. I don't know when that's due out though. It doesn't specify a release date. But yeah, there does appear to be a game that's 2017 listed at least. I don't follow NASCAR, so I have no idea.
Neither do I. I just like doing the shake and bake move every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Don't judge me.
No,
I'm an American.
Don't judge you. I'm not judging
Don't
you.
judge.
No, it's fine. It's so good.
Moving on.
That's terrible. I don't even know how we ended up at NASCAR. Oh, you're
Yeah, we're talking about
Need for Speed, yeah.
Need for Speed and
Sorry,
racing.
all I had in my head was pets. Oh. No, go away. Stupid thing. There we go. Ugh. Sorry,
Alright, moving on.
my Skype messed up. Yeah, should we move on to the next bit? The meat of it all. Let's get on to the meat of the show. Where are we at? So, bit of discussion. Industry discussion. So, how many of you guys in chat have been following what's been happening with like Shadow of War,
And NBA.
NBA? Yep, plenty of other games. There's tons of examples from this year with the whole microtransaction stuff. Have you guys been keeping up with it? Orician? Okay.
No, not really. And I know that they are implementing it in a lot of new games, but
Yes. Yeah.
I know the thing with the DLC, the whole debacle with that, like stuff. Not that much with the microtransactions. So
Mhm. Okay, so the discussion really is going to be focused on microtransactions rather than like full expansion DLCs, yeah? But like, you get those like superficial mini DLCs that are pretty much just a microtransaction anyway. So we're going to kind of bulk those all together, if that makes sense. So for those who... Okay, so for those in chat who don't know, since a few indicated they don't know, Shadow of War is a follow-up to the previous Lord of the Rings game that Warner Brothers produced.
Shadow of Mordor.
Shadow of Mordor, that's the one. Sorry, it went out my brain for a second. Really good game, but the problem that happened with that game was, for some stupid reason, the PR company, if I remember correctly, they put embargoes and very specific conditions which essentially prevented you from saying anything negative about the game, regardless of your point of view, in order to get a review copy,
Warner
basically.
Brothers were basically paying off reviewers, basically.
Yeah, allegedly. We're not going to go into that before we get into trouble. But anyway, so that's supposedly what went on. With this game, however, basically what's happened is you've got a single player experience, and the previous game was a single player experience. What they've done to it, however, is they've forced in a multiplayer mode that wasn't needed, a bit like Metal Gear Solid 5.
It's like Metal Gear's base building.
Yeah, basically, you can get your stuff destroyed by other players, but you can go and be an asshole and go destroy other people's stuff for rewards. In addition to that, there's also boxes you can get, which give you, well, it's supposed to be not pay to win, but...
They're war chests.
Yeah, war chests, but there's actually orcs in the chests, among other things, like XP boosts and stuff, things to, like, speed things up, so it's like pay to bypass time, essentially. But the orcs in particular that you can get, because they're part of the Nemesis system, which is a really big crux of the whole game, that kind of makes it pay to win, because there are certain orcs that are really, really good. I mean, in theory, you can play the game and get them anyway. That's very true in the game's defense. But some of them apparently are pretty freaking OP, and the amount of time required to grind some of these things out, and on a pure luck basis, because that's what the chests are, it's pure random luck. You know, it's essentially trying to force the player into doing those transactions, and it being a AAA title at max, you know, kind of, well, the kind of general considered price of a AAA title. It's not on a discount or anything. With it being new, you know, you're playing full price game, and then you're gonna have to pay for extras on top if you want to get the things you want, if you want the kind of advantages you need in the online play, and even offline play.
It's not just $60 for the Americans.
Yeah.
For the standard game.
You got the special editions.
There's the special edition, the collector's edition, the season pass, then microtransactions on top. Then you've also got what else was there? There was something else.
I can't remember. There's quite a few editions. I'm pretty sure there's one for over £100, if I remember right.
I think there's one with a statue that's like 200.
Yeah.
200 quid.
Yeah. Well,
like
this was the thing with like Assassin's Creed Origins, because I really like their collector editions on this one.
Not the £800 one though.
Yeah, that was the sticking point where I said no, because that was way too expensive. Yeah, a bit ridiculous, really. And they deliberately hold things back as well on certain editions, so that you have to buy more than one edition for you technically want to get everything, which is really annoying. So yeah, just a bit annoying. But anyway, you know, essentially you're paying for a full price game, full price AAA game. You're then expected to pay microtransactions to unlock stuff and bypass time windows. The XP stuff I don't see as an issue, because you can do it anyway. It's just a bit of cheating. Why anyone would buy that kind of stuff is a bit pointless. The getting orcs though and things that actually will benefit you in both online and offline play is a bit shitty, in all honesty. I do not like that in the slightest. I think that's absolutely terrible. It's so forced in. It really doesn't need to be that. I mean, what do you think, Richard?
Well, it's a game that really doesn't need microtransactions, and
no, exactly.
They are directly impacting the design of the game.
Yeah. By
pushing it in and making you do that grind, or you feel like, oh, I'll put a couple pound in or bucks, you know, and you get that instant gratification, but you're just paying into their system, aren't you?
Yeah, and the problem with that is you encourage more of this kind of behaviour and for more developers to adopt it because it makes a lot of money. GTA Online is a good example of this. They're one of the top selling games still because of their shark cards. They make an absolute stonking amount on the shark cards. There are people that really love GTA Online, and I have to say I do really love Rockstar games on a whole. They do a fantastic job, but I don't like the way the GTA Online works. That's my personal preference. If people like it, fine, that's your thing, whatever. But I do not like the way the online works. I think it's quite shallow. I would far rather they worked on story-based expansion DLC, like the Ballad of Gay Tony and the Lost and Damned. I think that was fantastic. The problem is that's not where the profit is. Yes, those DLCs were profitable, but not to the same level that these shot cards are. It's just insane.
They made $1 billion last year just from microtransactions.
Yeah, and that doesn't even include the sale of the game. That because you got to buy those that obviously separate, and the shot cards you can buy multiple times. There's lots of different levels of it. But I think you can put an absolutely insane amount in. I'm just gonna look it up on Steam a second while we're chatting. But yeah, like I say, for me personally, I don't like GTA Online. It's all right for a good laugh with a few mates. But I don't.
$1 just in that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's an absolutely mad amount of money.
I wish I had that.
Just gonna bring it on the frame video. So GTA, see, we've got purchase options. So $199 for 100 grand, $319 for 200 grand, $599 for 500, 1.2 mil. $11.99, 3.5 mil, $30.99, and then 8 million for basically 60 quid. So 60 quid's about $80-$90, I think.
It's about $80.
Yeah, about $80, I think. So it's
100,000
pretty
doesn't
hefty,
buy
but you can see
it.
where they're making their money. It's insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And all these are essentially skips. Basically, pay to skip.
Oh, and that will go real quick, literally instantly.
Oh, it does,
Because,
yeah.
like, you can buy one
I,
apartment that's like a couple million, and that's gone
Yeah.
instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did. I didn't spend like actual real life money. A few of my friends and I saved up enough money to buy it, but
Yeah, same. But the grind
Yeah. I had
felt really bad, didn't it?
yeah, I had a friend who
Yeah.
gave me a shot card. Funnily enough, for 800 grand, I spent it on an apartment. Just that, but it was gone. It was just gone instantly. I was like, bugger.
and
And then
new
the
stuff's
thing is though,
worse.
right? Once you buy an apartment and you buy really good cards, like I've heard the endgame really sucks in that game because once you've got everything, and then you're at the capacity of making a ton of money anyway, you've just got nothing to do
Yeah, but
with it.
actually, one of the new updates to do the story missions that are involved with
Yeah.
like, smuggling or whatever it is,
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah.
you have to buy a bunker,
Hey Tim,
but that's half
Yeah.
a million
the buck is half a minute. Oh my
Yeah.
god, I
Just
assume
to
you can
start-
upgrade it.
just to start that mission.
I assume you can upgrade it though.
Yeah, but
Which costs?
But to start that
Yeah.
mission line, you have to buy that building. That's
Oh.
insane, and you got to grind.
I
that.
don't, I think it's not. I
or
don't mind locked
buy-
off content to some extent because at least it gets you doing like basic things first, and then you can move on to more advanced
Yeah,
stuff.
but the way it's designed.
Oh yeah, people are going to
it'll
just
make you
buy.
think, just buy that one card.
Yeah, exactly. People are just going to buy that one card just so they can get to the content they're gated off from.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really solve the ability level issue, like with new players going into heists or new players going into the bunker thing. Like you can buy your way in just like that, you know. So yeah. I don't know. I just don't like the architecture of it. It really annoys me. But anyway, specifically in Shadow of Mordor's situation, it's a single player driven game. The game was perfectly fine single player before. The Nemesis system was great. They've tried to expand on it now to become more of a conquesty kind of situation. There's like control of territory and you invade with armies into fortresses and stuff, which is really cool. I like that. It's a nice expansion on it. I don't think they've potentially done enough with the Nemesis system. Obviously I haven't seen the game yet, but from what I've seen and what the reviews have been saying that have had early access stuff, yeah, I'm not convinced they've kind of developed it. Maybe they've got a bit backwards with the Nemesis system potentially, but we'll see what happens. But I'm hoping they've not screwed it up too much. But the fact that they've completely rewritten the way the game works just to shove this microtransaction stuff in really drives me insane.
Well, I don't agree on
Freemium game, I can understand, but a full paid game. Anyway, you were saying Orician?
Yeah, I don't agree on the fact that they ruined the game by implementing microtransactions. I mean, it's a really smart move actually by them because there are indeed a ton of players that are not willing to put in the time to get the gear or the items that they really want in the game. But if you want the full experience of the game, then you need to put in the time. It's just a new way of making money with the new games. I don't especially agree on the fact that they are ruining the games by implementing this.
Fair
I mean,
point.
it's not like it's indeed pay to win. It's just a way to bypass the time.
But when it's so biased in favour of giving you things that are particularly overpowered, do you not think that's potentially a bit unfair because it them down to who's got the biggest wallet? Because
No,
there's only a
because you get-
finite amount of time that people have.
No, I don't think so. Like you just said, the items that you can get in the crates or the cases are also you can also get those by just playing the game, put in the time and grind for it, right? So it's not like you're only the only way to get really OP items is by buying the crates.
Yeah, true. With enough weight, you can get them. But I think the barrier is too high, potentially, like the amount of time you need to put in to get it. Potentially.
Yeah,
Because
but
it is luck orientated as well to some extent with what you
sure,
get.
but do you really think that people are gonna play this game for a really long time? I mean, if you look at the first game, they played the story and dropped it immediately.
Yeah, and that's again another reason
So-
why they've put the multiplayer in, because they want to keep people long term and then milk people for more money, in
Yeah,
theory.
but I don't think it's gonna work with this game.
No,
So.
I can't see it working either. I think people will
Yeah.
stick around for the story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And you will be done with the story in like what, 6 to 8 hours, something like that.
probably be a little bit more than that, with it being a bit of a more open game.
I think Shadow Mordor's a bit more like Shadow War. It's more like 20 hours because we're being
if you're
more open
mucking,
world.
if you're mucking around though with all the side stuff and
Yeah.
everything as well, which you're gonna have to do some regardless, especially if you want certain orc leaders, because you're gonna need them to do certain things. But again, that's part of the grind that's needed as part of the game. So
Well, then you will find 1 or 2 people that are really annoying and will bomb your shit. But I mean, that's not really disrupting the gameplay for you. That's what I think.
fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, like I said, there's always 2 sides to it, right? I think the crux is where they do the tipping point, where they balance it. Because if they balance it fairly, then it's not going to have as big an impact and be disruptive. But if they make it really extremely biased, then I think we're going to have a problem, potentially, with it. If you get what I mean. Like, if they make it so... Because I know some games have done this in the past, where they've skewed the loot boxes, for example, really heavily. So, I mean, Overwatch is a good example
Yeah,
of this.
Overwatch used to have...
It's cosmetic only in Overwatch, but you get so much guff in the boxes that even if you grind the levels, like... The thing is, if you buy crates, you are guaranteed X amount of legendaries, for example.
Yeah, but it was worse earlier on because they gave you
Yeah.
duplicates constantly.
Yes.
So you're wasting even more time.
Yeah, they
getting the
now
same
give
crap.
you currency, though.
Yeah, but it's
Still a reduced amount.
Still hell of a grind.
Yeah, and certain stuff's only available for a small amount of time as
and
well, which is a
leveling up
problem.
takes a while.
See, this is where I prefer World
Yeah.
of Warcraft, where, like, when you got stuff done, you had it, and that was it.
Yeah, but
But
it's like a manipulation, like a gambling idea that they've taken into games. You know, it's how far can they push you before you go, it would just be quicker to buy this. Just chuck some money in it.
oh, there's absolutely 0 duplicates at all now, Porku.
Well, here's the thing.
Well, that'll be
is, like,
good.
it's up to a certain percentage for duplicates in Overwatch. Like, for example, if you have like 95% of the common items in Overwatch, then yeah, you're gonna start seeing some duplicates, but it's significantly reduced now. So that if you have like 50% of the commons, you're not gonna get a duplicate.
Very nice. Okay, so it sounds like they've reduced it, but according to Porku in chat, apparently they were talking about actually removing duplicates entirely. Now, I don't know where that's come from. If you've got a link to an article, Porku, that'd be great, or the press release on that'd be fab. But
Well,
yeah,
no, what
I
he's
think
talking
that will
about
definitely be a
same
lot
thing I'm
fairer if they
talking
can
about.
remove the duplicates out of it. So at least then you always know you're getting more of what you want. Because otherwise, somebody did an insane thing. I think they put like 300,000 into loot boxes and calculated all the percentages and everything.
But I mean,
It's insane.
should this game even have paid loot boxes? I mean, you've already paid $60 for this game.
Thing is, though, you can say that for something like World of Warcraft, for
Yeah, but-
example, where you buy the game, then you have to pay subscription time, and there's like pets and stuff as
I'm
well.
sorry, does Blizzard really need the money?
No, but they're a company with shareholders. They need to keep making money, so it's in their interest.
Yes, but it's not
That's
consumer
only
friendly.
fair.
I'm not.
No, it's not. It's not. But
Well, it
if
is.
you're playing the game and you enjoy it that much,
Yeah, well, like
you'll put the time in. You'll put the money
I've-
in. That's the thing. If I like Shadow War, I might, but I don't think the crates are going to be fair, so I won't.
I've put maybe 40 hours into Overwatch. I've not paid a penny for any loot boxes, but I still feel that grind constantly.
See, I'm a bit different with that. Overwatch, I bought the game, but I only bought the standard edition. I played it for like 20, 30 hours, and then I made a decision. Do I like this enough to give them more money? Do I feel they've deserved the money? Right? So I dabbled in it. I tried. I bought a few loot boxes just to see what the percentages were like and just kind of confirm what people were talking about. And also, again, because I felt I got some good time out of the game, and that they were worth a few quid extra. But I think that's better. I don't agree with the way the boxes are balanced on there, in hindsight. But it sounds like they're trying to make improvements, which is good. There's also the issue they came across in China, where they've now got to declare the contents of their boxes now, and they have to declare the percentages now.
Yeah, that's because that's part of a gambling law change.
Yes, they made a change, and there are other countries that are actually looking at following suit with that as well. So that's going to make some interesting developments.
Yeah, well, actually,
and have implications.
The interesting thing is with these microtransactions, they are talking about whether this needs to be regulated now, because
it is getting ridiculous now.
Kids are getting influenced into gambling, basically.
Yeah, but loot boxes are one of those grey areas where it's not technically gambling as far as the law's concerned, and this is why there's a problem.
Area.
Yeah, but this is where we've got the CS:GO gambling site debacles and all the rest of it, and that's a whole other story for another day, because there's actually some recent developments on that as well, with the lawsuits and the FTC cases and all the rest of it.
How many stories have we heard about kids buying lots of these microtransactions on mobile phone games?
Yes.
And racking up
Clash of Clans,
crazy
good
bills.
example. Yeah. But that's in part due to parenting.
Yeah, but it's not a good thing for the industry, I don't think. Yeah, it's making them shit tons of money, but it's not good for us.
I think again, it's a matter of there needs to be balance, and there needs to be clarity on what people are getting. Like I say, those are very specific cases because they are essentially gambling, because they're in a box style format. When you've got microtransactions where it's like, look, this is what you get for this price, that's it. I think that's a whole different debate. The boxes where it's gambling, you don't know the percentages, you don't know what you're getting into potentially, that's a bit more problematic in my eyes. I don't know about for you guys. The stuff where it's like, hey, look, we're going to give you a DeLorean skin for this, or, you know, like a skin pack but it's very clear this is what you get, boom, 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 yeah? Fine, because it's all declared, you guaranteed all the stuff that's in it. You're always playing risk reward though with boxes, which is a little bit different.
Yeah, kind of reminds me a bit of Rocket League. Like the DeLorean pack is a DLC on its own. It's a car, you get a skin.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. I did buy that.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
We're specifically talking about Rocket League and a few other games, by the way, for those that don't know where
but
this is coming from.
It wasn't horribly hideous like their keys that you have to buy to unlock.
Yeah, that's
crates.
what I mean. You're getting what you paid for. Like, you know exactly what you're getting for.
But with Rocket League, I do feel like, because it's a much cheaper indie game, I kind of would be more inclined to buy keys, but I'm not gonna do it.
You know, and I have to say, I have engaged in key, you know, crates and stuff like that. CS:GO is a prime example of that. I've just sold off my entire inventory, so I've just got one item left that's due to go up tomorrow. But you know, again, I was happy to put the money in. I've got my money back for the most part now. I'm gonna use it to buy other games and do other things with it. You know, Steam's got their fair share. I like the game a lot. Yes, it's got problems, but you know, it's fine. So I was happy to do that. But I think it's just being aware of how much you're putting in, what you're getting out of it. Is it worth it? You know, I'm kind of going from there. But again, multiplayer, I don't have so much issue with the cosmetic side. It's the items that give you benefits that are a bit more of an issue. I think, yeah, grinding's fair enough. That's fine. But I think putting up too much of a barrier poses issues potentially if it's too high. If that makes sense.
A good question is, most recent case is NBA 2K18.
Yeah, I don't follow that game.
Any of you followed that news story?
No.
No.
No. So basically, got what's called VC, virtual currency. Yeah, great name. But yeah, you use that to upgrade your player throughout the seasons you play. But they've basically turned it into the biggest grind in the world, where they give you 6,000 VC for free when you start the game. That sounds good. That gets you from like 60 to 62 rating. And then I think someone worked it out where I was reading it from. They said it was like 40 hours to get from 60 to 76 rating, something like that, which is just an insane amount of time. And basically you could buy, it's $100 to get the highest value pack of VC, and they're forcing you basically to do that because otherwise you're gonna have to do that 40-hour grind, and that's just horrible. Unless you're like a real sports enthusiast and you really want to go through that, but you've got to be like A+ ranking every game to get, you know, the same effect quickly without doing the
and to some extent that rewards you being good, because if you're good at the game, then you're gonna get there faster.
Well, I mean, and these are things that that this generation of gamers is struggling with. That's also one of the reasons that microtransactions are so big lately, is because people don't feel like putting in the work anymore for any kind of games. People just want to be the best instantly. They want to have the best gear. They want to have the best level. They want to be the best instantly, and this is one of the things that keeps the fire going in the whole microtransaction industry.
Yeah, I suppose it's also true that there's so many games vying for our attention. Yeah, it is. Kind of makes you think, oh, I'll just quickly get that pack.
Put a few bucks in here and now, yeah.
But if you look at games from, 20, 30 years ago, you had to put in 6-8 hours a day to just learn one level.
Yeah, I mean...
It took ages to get through one level. I mean, these days people just want to pick up the game, be the best instantly, and run through it in 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah, I think good example of this is like really, really old consoles. Like super, super old, like old Atari and, you know, where I mean, even things like old school Mario, for example, you know, the platforming was difficult. There wasn't necessarily a huge number of levels in them originally because of limitations with how big the game could be, but they made them challenging so that you'd need to repeat and repeat and repeat to get better and better at it in order to get through it, if that makes sense. So there was a lot of replayability and there was a lot of developing skills and understanding how the game worked before you could get anywhere, if that makes sense. But they didn't have the capacity really to be putting like monstrous amounts of stuff, you know, into the cartridge or whatever at the time. Obviously as time progressed that became less of an issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, people want instant gratification nowadays, don't they, really? More than anything else. They want to just get on with it, get done with it, move on to the next thing. And with the amount of games that are coming out as well, every year now. I mean, Steam had their most bumper year last year, with a ridiculous number of games on their directory. I mean, granted, there's a lot of asset flips and a lot of this garbage rubbish that they're trying to filter out now. But even if you factor all of that out of the equation, you've still got an insane number of games, and of course you've got multiple platforms that people may want to play the same game on, so, you know, getting through the same game on multiple platforms is time consuming to say the least, especially with like your open world RPGs and things like that. There are so many people that are putting ridiculous hours in. You know, there are people with thousands of hours on like Skyrim, and I mean, I know I've got hundreds of hours on Art, but I know people have got insane amounts.
That's it.
Yeah, you're a great example of that guy.
It.
You know, I know the guy who's got the highest number of hours in Payday 2. He's got like 6,600 something hours in the game, and still going. It's just mad, absolutely madness. But I have to say, I'm just as bad when it comes to things like I used to be ridiculous with World of Warcraft. Like the amount of time I'd spend on a single character was absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, granted, I played that game for like 6 years, I think, 6-7 years. But even so.
Yeah, but even so, you're talking about you were enjoying the game enough that you keep going constantly. Like.
Oh yeah.
Like.
And when I quit, it was when I stopped enjoying it.
I'm still playing Final Fantasy 15 at the moment. Really enjoying that, loving it so much. But you got to put so many hours into it to get anywhere. But it's an RPG, so you expect that.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it enough to keep going.
Yeah, but it's keeping you engaged.
If it had microtransactions, would I like that as much?
Saying that though, you played Metal Gear Solid 5, didn't you? And you really enjoyed that.
Yes, but the multiplayer I tried once, hated it because of all the microtransaction bullshit and the basically you're paying for protection from Konami to not get your base ripped apart by really good people, you could pay to basically protect your base for so many days with real money.
Insurance
And-
racket,
yeah.
basically.
That's hideous. That's microtransactions at its worst.
I think microtransactions
Yeah,
can
that's
be really well
microtransactions
done,
gone
though.
wrong.
There are some good examples of microtransactions before people think I'm getting too negative about it, because
Yeah.
it does gripe on me that it's
Yeah,
becoming more of an
but-
issue. But there are microtransactions that can be done really well, I have to highlight. Like, there are some fantastic examples of really nice micro DLC or microtransactions
Well, also
where...
free-to-play games that deserve it, but
Yeah, I
Metal
think-
Gear is pushing you to your limit.
Yeah, I think the freemium model, it's a necessity. You can't get away with it, and I think it's fair play in those situations.
But
That's fine.
I think the problem is you're putting a concept of a freemium idea
in a AAA
into
situation.
a AAA, which
Yeah.
you're already paying so much money for.
Yeah.
It really doesn't need to be
This
there.
is where I prefer expansion packs. I find that far more interesting, generally speaking. Not always. Like, I think there's ways to do things like cosmetic stuff, because there's been like pure cosmetic DLC for
Yeah, but I
some games
I think
that's worked really
because
well.
of the microtransactions and how much money they make, though, that's now put them off from doing those story DLCs.
Yeah,
like
GTA is a good
like
example of
Rockstar
that.
used to do those. They
Yeah,
don't now
GTA 4.
because $1 billion is much easier when you don't have to do much.
Well, they still have to do work. Don't put it like that they do nothing and just sit in the office twiddling their thumbs.
No, I
You
mean
know,
they still got to run servers and.
It's not like they're
whatnot
having
and
parties in the
everything,
office every
but-
10 minutes, but, you
no,
know,
but
yes,
it's-
it's less intensive.
it's
I'll
the
give you that.
effort they got to put in is less.
Yeah, because
far less.
there's far less writing
It's
required.
like
and-
Valve won't make a video game because it's less effort just to sit with Steam and rake in money that way.
Yeah, give me the new
they're not
freaking
developer anymore. They're a
Half-Life or something.
platform.
Yes.
God damn it.
Pardon, say that again, Orician?
Give me the freaking new Half-Life or something. I mean,
Yes, I desperately want the name
Stop-
highlight.
stop
It's
building
not
the
going to
store.
happen. It's not going to
Give
happen.
me a new game.
I will say it right now.
Half-Life's team is a skeleton team.
They
have
don't
no
make
intent.
games anymore.
They have no intent of
Face
releasing
it.
it.
Actually, they are. They are working on a new game.
They have Half-Life 3 in the works, but there's like 2 people assigned to it.
The writers left it. They've got hardly
They-
anybody.
Wasn't it a couple...
Left 4 Dead 3 is dead as well. Let's face it, they don't make games. They're not.
Not
the
in a
developers.
true sense, but they do have skeleton teams on games, but only
Yes, but
because
they're
they
never
can say
gonna
it's...
happen. They don't have the team or money to just get on with it because Valve are so scared of doing it, and they make so much more money from Steam. And
Yeah,
That's
there was
another
one of the writers actually leaked a kind of provisional script, I think.
yes, he leaked the
Yeah.
script for episode 3
Yeah.
because he was sick of,
Them putting it
Yeah.
off. Yeah.
and he wanted to give fans closure because he knows they're never going to do it.
Yeah, he's changed the names in the script so he doesn't get done by
Yeah,
Valve.
legally.
Yeah.
But they know
So they
it is
can't-
Half-Life 3.
Yeah, it's Half-Life 3. It's almost certain. You've just kind of got to guess what character's what in the
Well, it's
mock-up script.
already
but...
been deciphered.
Yeah, people have sat and worked it all out. But so there's a fairly good idea where Half-Life would have gone, and there's a twist apparently.
So we kind
But
of
I'm not going to say what.
what I
read.
have that conclusion, but actual game, no, we're never going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame, really. It's a real shame. Like I say, I think microtransactions have a place, but there's a point where you get to taking the piss. And for me, Shadow of War might walk into that territory. That's what I'm worried about. I'm hoping it won't, but it's Warner Brothers we're talking about. You know, they've had a pretty patchy history recently with some of their games. And I'm not impressed with them, to be honest.
think-
I love some of their games. They've done some fantastic games, and they've got some really amazing licenses under their belt as well. But I don't always think they do it to the best necessarily, and I think they interfere a lot with the development teams who are really passionate about the projects they're on. But they need to keep their noses out, really, when they're being the publisher.
I
on
think the
certain
problem
things.
is the trend of every year. We hear more and more of these stories of games being affected by microtransactions being shoehorned in. It's worrying seeing it
Wasn't
more
it
and more.
Deus Ex had that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was literally 2 weeks before it was meant to ship. They added that in.
Yeah, that's a really horrible amount of time to shove that in.
Yeah, Square Enix told them 2 weeks before the deadline to shove microtransactions into a sub game
Yeah,
that was-
my understanding as well was the devs
that
had
was
built
terrible.
and balanced everything for being being transaction free as well, and
Yes,
then they had to
and then
completely rewrite it.
Yeah, and single player then had the Paraxis kits and stuff added in as microtransactions, and it was bullshit.
To be fair, that game had
Didn't
other
really-
issues which didn't help it, like performance issues. But yeah, there's a few odd cases of these things happening which I don't like.
But I think we're hearing it more and more, which is just a bit worrying. Trend.
Yeah. Like I say, I think there's a place, but I think there's a few examples of people who are going a bit too far with it at the moment, which worries me.
I think developers are seeing how far they can push us.
Yes.
Before
Well, not only that, they're also pushing the
someone
guidelines with
fights
the
back.
rules because, like I say, you've got the loot box and the gambling laws and everything as well. So they're going as far as they can, but there's going to be a pushback from that.
Well, the problem is either it goes too far, we as the consumers push back by not buying their games, or regulation from government with gambling
Yeah, and
laws
that's where
comes
things
into
are going
a
now.
new shape,
with
and
that.
will really mess the industry up
Yeah. Yeah.
and do more harm than anything.
Okay. So moving away from the gambling element, moving away from us going around in circles on that. Should we talk
May I say
specific?
my thoughts on microtransactions?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, for me, personally, like pay to win, I'm not okay with. But for like things like in Heroes of the Storm, you can buy stim packs. This goes back to the earlier comments about making your progress a little bit faster. What stim packs do is it allows you to level up your hero, which allows you to get more boxes for the hero, yada yada yada. It doesn't really do anything. It's just pay to get the XP level a little bit higher up for your heroes. That I'm okay with. Overwatch, the loot boxes, I'm sort of okay with. It's just like what Bulldog said it earlier. Just the grind to get the loot boxes is kind of high, but I'm okay with grinding to get the loot boxes instead of paying for it. I think one game that is sort of notorious because of how well known it is that we haven't mentioned yet is League of Legends. With how many skins there are, like honestly, who doesn't know somebody that has spent possibly $100+ US on League of Legends? I know somebody that spent several thousands of dollars just on skins.
Yeah. But I think the point with that is they're pretty cosmetic.
Yeah.
You can opt in for as many or as few as you want, and if you play the game and you play more champs, then you buy what you want as you want, kind of thing.
I think the difference though is League of Legends is free to play.
Yes, League of Legends is free. It's always been free.
So you're not forced to, but with like a $60 game, if they had that amount of skins in there for cost like that,
that's a bit
you would
ridiculous.
find that horrible.
No, the other thing though with the League of Legends skins is they're really expensive for the amount of points they are.
Okay.
They're very costly. I mean, you can spend £30 on a skin.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, just one skin.
Yeah.
I think the cheap skins there's like $5 skins, $10 skins, but it varies enormously. There are like legendary and discontinued skins that are ridiculous, and they also added a box thing into it, and they've added a few other little things. Yeah, but I think with that model it works all right. And again, you're not. I mean, there's always been the claims of pay to win in League of Legends because by default you don't have access to all the champions. You have to grind points while you level. When you play matches, you get IP and RP. IP is the currency you gain while you play. RP is what the currency you buy. You buy the skins with RP. You can't spend IP on the skins, bar some very odd specific circumstances. If I remember correctly, there's like promotional events and shit occasionally. But IP you use to buy the champions pretty much exclusively. You can buy the champions with riot points as well. RP. So you could, in theory, dump money into the game, have all the champions, and only be like level 1 on the game. In theory, if you've got a bottomless pit of money somewhere. That is where people give the accusation pay to win on that game.
Okay.
As to what extent that is the case, that's a whole nother matter. But the issue is there are certain champions that counter certain champions really well. They, so having them is a big advantage, and when you're a low level player, obviously you've got a very limited pool of what you can play with, and the free players rotate every week regardless, so you might lose the player you like playing, if you're new. But as you get further into the game, it does give you a decent amount of points. I've played the game a fair amount, but I've played it on 3 different accounts. I've still got a reasonable number of heroes. I don't have all the heroes, but if I played it every day, or played it a bit more, it's perfectly within the realms of achievable. Like I say, you could dump tons of money into it. That's an option. But I don't think it really interferes too much with high-level play and competitive, because when you get to that point, you tend to have a decent number of champions and a decent roster. So, yeah, like I said, there's arguments for and against why that is or isn't pay to win that game. As for the microtransactions, though, they are pretty much just cosmetic all the way. There is like a booster so that you can level up quicker. And there's a booster which will give you more IP drop at the end of each match. So that's a way to speed it up. But there's nothing like you get 5% extra damage in a match or anything like that. There's nothing like that.
Okay.
So, yeah. I think League of Legends' model isn't too bad. I think it's a pretty good one overall. Like I say, you've got the access for those, like you mentioned, Orician, that don't have the time, who want to get through it quicker. And then you've got the cosmetics and the niceties. They're not essential, but they're there. Some of them are cheap enough that you can pick them up, though, if you don't have much money. But there's more kind of elaborate, more expensive skins, though, for people that have got a bit more to burn. So I think in that respect, it's fairly balanced. It just sucks if you're one of those people that's looking at a really nice skin, everybody's got it, and you don't. That sucks, because you don't really have any proper way to earn it in-game. That's the only downside. But it's a free game. And it's got to make its money somehow, right? So, otherwise it doesn't exist. It will cease to exist very quickly. It's not cheap to run, so... Yeah.
Yeah, but I think...
I'm
sorry.
Continue. Go ahead.
I think the same counts for AAA titles, actually. If you look at titles like Call of Duty, for example, they have microtransactions as well.
Yes, they got the skins for the guns, haven't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, the multiplayer runs on big servers, right? People expect them to keep the game alive for several years. If they did not implement microtransactions, they would not be able to run the game for example, 10 years. What some people actually expect these days. And they expect them to update the game to keep it alive. And if they do not implement microtransactions, they will not be able to do this. And when they shut down the games, people will start complaining with I bought the game, I expect it to work.
Yeah.
This whole multiplayer, the whole multiplayer these days in the games is one of the things that keeps the microtransactions alive in AAA titles. People expect them to keep the game running for years and years on end and keep them alive, but it's not possible if you don't have the funding.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a good way to generate the funds necessary to make that happen. With a multiplayer-driven game like Call of Duty, granted, it's got a campaign, but that's not really what the majority of people buy it for, let's be honest, right? So yeah, as you said, there's expensive servers. There has, I think, been some cases of Call of Duty games where it's been peer-to-peer host. I don't think it's always been server host-based, if I'm correct. I think they have cheaped out. I think Ghosts was an example of that. I'm not sure. But then there has been cases where they've completely taken servers out of the loop. Obviously, just the core management for traffic, but, not directly hosting. I think they did do some peer-to-peer at one point. I think Advanced Warfare might have done that as well. I can't remember. I have to look it up. But yeah, so there's always extra cost that's laid on if you do hosting via server rather than peer-to-peer. So there's... Oh yeah, as Martini says, there's COD 1 servers still. So, the fact that they've got the funds to still do that is great. You know, because if you get a multiplayer game, you want to play it. If the community still want to play it, they want it to still be there. Otherwise, they're all locked out and there's nothing they can do about it, which sucks big time. It's horrible. A good example of this, where it's gone sucky, would be I really liked playing Tom Clancy's, what was it? You know that co-op? Was it Rainbow Six Vegas? I think it was Vegas 2. Yeah.
Yeah, we played that.
They had some problems with the game because of the way the online went. But anyway, the game, I wanted to play a co-op with a friend. I bought it on Steam last year. Turns out the multiplayer's locked up. You can't play it. It's completely locked up. So me and my friend bought a game, granted on discount for about $5 each, but we couldn't play it. We couldn't play it together, which really sucked. Really, really annoying. Now, obviously, the community's not necessarily going to be there. Everybody's moved on to Rainbow Six, Siege and all the rest of it. So technically we can go there, but it's not going to be the same thing. We wanted to play a campaign game. But, yeah, the situation with COD means at least, like, they can keep things open. I'm fine with, like, the weapon skin packs and stuff. And, yes, it does support servers. It also keeps the community interested with new stuff coming out. They can also do event things. It's when it's, like, mods on guns, like get 10% extra accuracy with like a stock or something on a gun and you buy it, you know, that kind of thing that gives you an edge in multiplayer. Unless it's earnable in game, like prestiging or something where you can modify the weapon and get it, that's okay. But again, it's where you balance the grind.
Yeah, but what about Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered?
Yes.
Originally that was, 8 years ago now, I think?
Yeah.
When it first came out. That had no microtransactions when it first came out. Now they released the remastered version with microtransactions, which they also bundled with Infinite Warfare, and that was the only way you could get it till pretty recently now that they've released it separately.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Well, 8 years ago, microtransactions weren't really as much of a thing for a start, were they? Let's start with that. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was there, but it wasn't the thing, was it really? So there wouldn't necessarily have been the incentive to do it. As for locking off and gatewaying content from the original game, that's debatable. What do you guys think on that one? Because they've removed a load of the maps, haven't they, for a start?
Yeah,
yeah.
There was a DLC pack that they then re-released, remastered at an extra $8 or whatever it was, $10, something like that.
Yeah. Now, if I'd looked at that, I would have expected to have all the maps included with that.
Yeah, the whole Modern Warfare remastered game was just one big ripoff.
Yeah,
it's
it
just
was one
big
colossal fuck up.
It's just money grabbing. That's basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, this is where it gets thinking, because essentially you could say that remaster was a DLC for the game they were pushing it with, because essentially what they were doing was like, hey, here's this gatewayed game that we know you all been wanting a remaster of for a really long time, but we're not going to give it to you unless you buy this game, which we all know you really do not want to play. So give us the full price of a new AAA title just to get access to your remaster, and then you've got to pay extra to get it. Like, that is really sucky, because they knew they were not going to get the pre-orders, and they knew they were not going to get the first 2 weeks of sales that they really wanted to compete. So that was their way of doing it. They were going to basically leverage you on, here's a game you really want, but we're not going to give it to you unless you give us the pre-orders we need to keep our guys happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not
essentially,
even that,
they were
because...
annexing it like a DLC.
But even when they launched the Infinite Warfare game, you even had to buy the what was it, the deluxe edition or something to actually get the
you couldn't even buy the standard edition.
It was like such a rip-off.
Yeah, there was a specific edition you had to buy to get it included as well.
It was £65 in the UK.
Yes.
For that edition.
Yeah.
With Modern Warfare Remastered.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. Like I say, not really true DLC discussion, but again, you've got the fact that you don't get the full Modern Warfare experience because some of it's been put behind an additional paywall, and I don't think they necessarily declared that either. Do you remember if they declared that when they bundled it in?
I think they hid it away in a lot of like the.
It was probably there, but it was like,
text,
yeah,
really
I don't know. But
hidden.
anyway, there was even more expense on top, like the £8 or whatever it was, to get the extras that you needed, like to have the full Warfare experience remastered. You then had the barrier of a game that you wouldn't necessarily want to play, and a lot of people just had no interest in at all, just so they could lock in sales. You know, granted they've now released it separately, but I think it's done a big amount of damage to the developer's reputation and the reputation of the franchise as a whole. But also, again, you run into this issue of DLCing and locking people out and, you know, causing a bunch of issues.
We've seen it has damaged the franchise because they've had to
they're
go
struggling.
back to World War II now.
Yeah, but they're behind because, you know, Battlefield's already been and done it. You know.
Well, they did World War One, but yeah.
Yeah. But the only reason they switched direction from the futuristic was because they saw what the response was to Battlefield. You know, and the reaction to their last game, where the colossal amount of downvoting on YouTube. It was insane. Battlefield had, what was it, the top rated video on YouTube trending. For the whole year. They had the complete opposite.
Yeah, the worst.
They worst. Up to that point, the worst. I think, again, that just shows, like, people really did not want what they were offering. Were really knocked off with, you know, the situation.
Well, I think as we said earlier, now it's how far can you push the consumer?
Yeah. And I just want to say I called it before Battlefield 1 even came out. I called it and said, Call of Duty people will see how well Battlefield 1 is doing in sales with the old school stuff. And then they're like, oh shoot, they're doing well. We need to follow that bandwagon.
Yeah.
And
totally.
Now we're coming out with World War II.
We're going to get tons of these now. We're going to have another
with,
phase of these.
You got to think that these games have a 3-year development process.
Yes,
so
and Call of Duty
they already
teams.
started on the World War II game before they even released the Battlefield 1 game.
Yes,
so
true. But they would have been aware of what the Battlefield team were up to.
They would have been aware.
Yeah, of course. But they went back to the World War II gameplay because people were so disappointed with the way that the Black Ops series was going, and then they went with what was it, Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare. Even people just didn't want to go into the future; they wanted to stay with the modern style combat or even World War II, and that's when they made their decision. You saw it in the sales all these years.
Yeah. Porky makes a point. He says, come on, every COD comes out within a year or so gap. That's because they have multiple teams working on the game, so they're working in cycle.
Yeah,
so
3 teams
you've got, my understanding is they've got 3 teams that do it basically, and they're just on a staggered schedule with releases. So that's how they managed to do it.
Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer Games.
Yeah, and
Treyarch.
Treyarch, that's it. Yeah, because Treyarch did Black Ops 2, didn't it? And that was the last one.
Treyarch are considered the best. Out of the lot?
Black Ops 2 was when I lost interest, and that was Treyarch. Then wasn't it?
And Treyarch doing Model 2.
Oh, which one was Ghosts?
Ghosts was.
Yeah, I like Ghosts.
Yeah, I think so.
I the only one that
Ghosts
actually
was awful.
Ghosts.
Completely forgot that game.
But yeah, that's how they managed to do that Porku. It's a bit like the same situation at Creative Assembly now, with the way Total War operates. So they've got a fantasy Total War team. They're doing the Warhammer side of it, and then they've got a development team specifically assigned to the classical history style ones. So it, you know, they might have multiple game releases going out, but they've actually got 2 teams working alongside but on separate projects. So that's how they can put multiple projects out at the same time. Oh, Infinity Ward was Ghosts apparently.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's how they do it, Porky. So, yeah, like I said, we've kind of moved on now to whole games being sectioned off. But, yeah. So the other part of the Shadow War debate was this, well, should we call it charity DLC? It's not really correct because it's not proper charity DLC. Basically, one of the senior members of the team who worked on the game, unfortunately passed away. Condolences to the family and the team. Yes, I think it was a very specific type of cancer. I can't remember what it was.
Brain cancer, something like that.
Yeah, something brain tumor. Yeah, just really, really awful. And like I say, we're very sorry for the team. I'm very sorry for the family. I hope they're obviously getting through it okay and that they've got enough support. But basically, Warner Brothers and the team put together a DLC pack where an orc will come and protect you. randomly.
Using his likeness.
Yeah,
which
and it
is-
uses the likeness of the guy who unfortunately has passed away.
Yeah.
Which I think is a nice little thing to celebrate and
it's
immortalise
a good
their
gesture.
friend.
But
Yes,
then
absolutely.
Warner Brothers had to Warner Brother it.
Yes, and by Warner Brothers, what we mean is the DLC is paid, which is fine.
It's
I'm okay with that. Although there's some people
$5.
that
Yeah, $5.
there are some people that don't like that, but we'll get into that in a minute. But basically, it's very complicated. But to sum it up, I keep saying basically, it's really terrible. Space. I need to. I keep saying that. Anyway, so what happens is people buy the game. They then buy this DLC separately. The money is disclosed as being intended for the family. But there is an issue with that because there's some very small fine print which you can miss.
Which is very small in the
trailer. Yeah, it's right at the end of the trailer and it's really low and it's below much, much bigger text. That's given far more prominence.
Was it? It's a 70% split.
Yeah, so there is a split, so Warner Brothers can cover their costs. That's something I don't mind, but there are people that are funny about that.
They haven't totally disclosed it. They've just said it's to do with admin, which
yes.
I get. Xbox, PlayStation.
Yeah,
Steam
you've got platform fees and stuff.
Their cut.
Yeah, you've got platform fees and stuff. But what's not as clear to the average consumer, if you don't look very carefully, is certain states are completely excluded. So you've got to buy it in specific states. So if you don't live in certain states, all of the money from that sale will not go to the family at all. There'll be no money from that sale going to the family.
5 or 6 states, isn't it?
Yeah, there's 5 or 6 states
that are excluded from it.
Yeah, so if you live in those states and you buy that DLC under the impression the family are going to get some money to support them, they're not.
That money goes straight to Warner Brothers.
Yes.
You are not supporting.
You're not. No.
The charity.
Now, our understanding is this is to do with charity laws.
Yes, and that's why it's also not international either. So if I buy that DLC in the UK, it will go straight to Warner Brothers.
Anywhere in Europe, anywhere in Australia, Australasia, anywhere in the Far East, your purchase will not count. They will not see a penny of what you're giving.
Yeah.
Again, our understanding of this is because of the laws around charity work and donating.
Yeah, so people are upset Warner Brothers are profiting off a man's death.
Yeah, essentially that's the crux of it. We understand that there's issues legally with charity things, but in America specifically, our understanding is you just have to register to do it. In theory, Warner Brothers could do that. It looks like a case of they just can't be bothered.
I think it's those 5 or 6 states. There's a few more loopholes.
There's a few more steps. You have to go through, and they don't want to do that, which is their choice. That's their prerogative. But I think if they're not going to choose to do that, then they need to be really, really clear on the advert. They put some of it there, but they didn't give it enough prominence.
It's so tiny, the text, and it's.
I couldn't read it. I had to maximize it and then increase the size to read it.
5 seconds at the end.
Yeah, it doesn't give you enough time to read it at all. So, I mean, what's your opinion on this, guys? Let me pose a couple of questions. Do you agree with charity DLC or, charitable cause DLC? B, do you agree with the developer/publisher getting a portion of that, whether that's to cover admin fees, to actually profit, whatever? And C, do you think how do you think the disclosure should be done to do it properly? Kev, go.
So okay, so to cover the hey, certain percentage goes to the company, certain percentage goes to the family. I understand the reason behind it, but since it's only in the United States, not the other countries, and not even all the states, I think they could have done 100% for the states that are allowed to do it inside the United States, and they could have used the profit from the other locations to make up for the cost of the DLC, if that makes sense. So I think that in my head would make it a little bit more better for it. As far as the can't be in certain states and can't be in certain countries, I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen, like, at the end of an ad or like commercial blah blah blah. Oh hey, this might just be like United States thing, but all of this is excluded in the states of Hawaii, Washington D.C. area, and blah blah blah, or only citizens of the United States and the UK could partake, blah blah blah, and like giveaways, things like that. That could be all like because of legal reasons, things like that. That I'm okay with. As far as like, oh hey, how to like actually tell, oh hey, this is going on, only these states can partake. They could have done it a little bit better. I'm okay with it being at the end, but as long as it's clear enough for everyone, like saying, oh hey, by the way, you people in this area can't do it because of X, Y, and Z. So I think if they did it that way, there would be way less backlash from it. So because then it's all about what's the name word for it? Visibility. There we go.
Yes.
As long as they're visible enough about it, I think people would understand. But still, there's always going to be those few people. There's a reason why there's a phrase that's being used called you can't please everyone.
Yeah.
And so no matter what they do, they can't please everyone. But there's certain things like what I mentioned that they could do to please more people. So
right.
That answer all of it. Okay.
Cool. Okay, so what about you, Orician?
I think there's there has to be. I agree on certain kind of charitable DLCs. I mean, in this case, it's probably to cover funeral costs or something like that. I don't believe that the money will keep flowing in because the DLC is not timed, right? It's not like the DLC will be available for X amount of time and then we'll get out of the source.
I think they're gonna keep it available.
Yeah, so I don't believe that the family will keep getting the money from the DLC through all the years that it's available. So in this instance, I do not agree on this DLC, mainly because not all the money goes to the family, because here in Europe, if you buy it, it goes straight into the pockets of Warner Brother. So in this instance, no, I do not agree on this. I think there's another way to honor the developer. I've seen it in many other games. You can just put it in the day one patch or something, make an NPC or something that looks like him, and then have some voiceover or something. I don't know. Put something in the game that's available with a free patch.
Basically, include it regardless.
Yeah.
But with no monetary benefits to the family. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the companies like Warner Brothers are such big companies. If they really care about the developers, they can just donate an X amount of money.
Again, it's a company donating to a person, though, which I think has some legal implications in the US. That's the only thing I think is the case.
Monolith, who's the developer, they've wanted to do this as a honorary thing, a really nice gesture to the family and to him and his legacy at the studio. But Warner Brothers has come in and gone, oh, we can make this a DLC and put it in day one, get some money.
Yeah, I mean, we can't confirm that. We cannot confirm that, just for
under
clarity.
Under the pretense of charity? Because I don't see that all the money can possibly go to the family.
Well, no, you've got the split, and then you've got all the Europe sales are completely void. You've got the 6 states in the US.
Sales, can you believe that Warner Brothers will take that money and give it to the family?
The thing is, they haven't declared that they're going to give any of the Europe sales to them whatsoever. It's not in the specified information, the promotional material.
Well, I think it's the problem. They're just not being transparent about what their plans are.
I think they just need to be really upfront. Just be like, look,
or
here's
they should
how
have
it
just
is.
been,
And again, just said, look, we can't do this because of legal reasons, and it's just too much.
Or as Orician said, just make it free from
The
day
get-go
one,
as part of it.
and then maybe just say, here's a page to a crowdsourcing.
Yeah, I mean, they have a
thing.
GoFundMe, don't they?
Yeah.
I also think they have a
Just
raising...
say if you want to
Just
help
giving,
the
isn't it?
family.
Yeah, they have a Just Giving page, that's it.
Go.
I'll
give
put it in the
that
description of
way.
the YouTube video. But yeah, you could just give money there. At least they'd give them visibility in a platform. You know, and the
Yeah,
people that
and-
want to give the
and
money
then
can just do it.
You know it's physically going to
Yeah.
that family, not to Warner Bros.
Yeah, and if you don't want that character in the game, just have a button in the options to switch it off so it doesn't appear randomly. You know, then people can opt in and out of having it. The other idea that I saw suggested, and I was doing some research, I was watching Sid Alpha's video, I think Jim Sterling did on a video on it as well, and Total Biscuit did a video on it. I'm not sure about Jim Sterling, I have to check that. But yeah, Total Biscuit and Sid Alpha did a video. I think it was Total Biscuit that made the suggestion, but they could have just donated not to the family, but they could have said, look, we'll give you X amount from the sales from the US up to a threshold or whatever, but because we can't do this situation with the Europe sales because of international sales, because of all these illegal implications and all this extra pedal work that we'd have to do, right? It's just too much. We can't do it, right? What we'll do instead is we'll look. He died of this condition. We will give X amount to a charity, a registered charity in the US or wherever, just because we can, just to acknowledge, you know, to make up for the fact they're not going to get any benefit from the sales elsewhere in the world. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that sound fair, guys? What do you think of that?
That sounds pretty fair.
Yeah.
Although technically they're still making money off a DLC about a dead guy.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
problem.
that's
I think that's the problem people are gonna have.
yeah. I think there's covering of costs and then there's profiteering. I think people have more issue with profiteering, but I think the other issue people say though is, and again I somewhat agree, is if you're that keen on honouring his memory and as a good publisher to your developers and wanting to keep them sweet, just soak it up on that one occasion and just enjoy the good PR that comes about as a result of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rather than charging,
Yeah,
because they would benefit from that. I mean, personally, for me, EA I know gets demonized as being one of the worst companies to work for and to buy games off of. For me, I actually have to say Warner Brothers trumps EA on this. I've had more issues with Warner Brothers games in recent years, not so much older games, but certainly nowadays I seem to have more issues, and I would love for them to prove me wrong. But you know, there was the Arkham game issues. There's been issues with Lord of the Rings games. There's been issues with Harry Potter games. You know, there's a whole string of games where they've either come out completely broken on launch day, or the DLCs have been ludicrous. I think if I remember correctly, there was a debacle over the Arkham one about a really important character and section of story being completely locked off as a DLC, but being held to ransom essentially, but for no legitimate reason. Actually, a really core piece of the story.
The worst thing they did was in Origins,
Right,
Arkham Origins. That game, I think if anyone remembers that,
a while ago.
it was the one they developed instead of Rocksteady.
Right.
But it got released broken, and they knew it was broke.
Oh, I remember this.
And they wouldn't fix it because they were prepping DLC, story DLC, and people asked them to fix it, and they were still like, "Nope, we're doing the DLC first.
Wasn't this
You're
the
gonna
one?
have to wait. We
Wasn't
want more money first."
was it that one, or was it Arkham Knight that triggered Steam to put refunds in?
Yes, and that was Arkham Knight.
Yeah, Arkham Knight. Yeah, you see, yeah, because
Case.
yeah,
as well.
but I thought in Arkham Knight, I think it was Arkham Knight though. They sectioned off a bit of story that was crucial to actually the main story.
Yeah, but that was
if I remember right.
the whole thing was the case of them shipping out the PC port to a company that was
Yes,
a team
that
of
was
like
bad.
8 people for a port of a PC game is just ludicrous, and they gave them like 6 months to do it.
That reminds me of the ET situation with the guy who had like 6 weeks to get the ET game out on his own. Oh, it's not good. It's not good. But personally, for me, I don't know about you guys. Like I say, feel free to elaborate. But for me, recent Warner Brother games have been dubious and very hit and miss personally, in terms of, like I say, release day being broken and DLC being a bit iffy.
I think they're a company that are really good at pushing their luck with their consumer base.
I think the other thing as well,
And
they've got really rabid fan bases for
Problem
certain
is
products.
they get away with it because they're seen as a film company first, not a game publisher.
Yeah, they're definitely not
Weirdly,
main gaming.
you think EA and Activision is the evil corporations in the game industry, and Warner Brothers kind of sneak in because they're a film division first, and games sort of their
Yeah, but they're
second thing.
still one of the biggest players in gaming.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, they've got some really amazing IPs under their belt.
Yes.
Again, because of their
Yeah,
influence in the
tons.
film industry. You know, they've got all the main licenses to the Lord of the Rings stuff, the Harry Potter
Batman.
stuff, the Batman stuff, you know, so they've got some serious powerhouses under their belt. And they can deny whoever they want if they feel like it, you know. I don't want the opposite situation where, like, you know, like Games Workshop have shipped out the Warhammer, and we've had some pretty awful Warhammer games, let's put it that way. There's some really amazing ones when they give it to the right people. So I don't want Warner Bros. Just chucking it about, do you know what I mean? But it's tricky. You've got to strike that balance, right? But I think, again, this is where they get a lot of their sales, is they've got some franchises where people are really fanatical. Really, really, really fanatical about it. And that kind of keeps them going, regardless of whether they pump something out completely broken on day one or not. Which is a shame, because I wish they'd, you know... This is the thing, though. Some of the developers, like Monolith, like,
Well,
they're
Monolith-
really passionate about
well,
what they produce. They really love it. But
Monolith and Rocksteady are amazing studios.
yeah,
but-
I don't think they get enough time, and Warner Brothers messes with things too much.
They're notorious for putting too much pressure on their studios.
Mm.
So-
And I think that's the big problem. Like, I think those studios can do an amazing job. They've got a track record that shows they can do it. The problem is the interfering and the timescales. If they had a much more generous timescale, which granted it costs money, I can understand why publishers pressure to get, you know, production times down. It's just not good for what they produce in the end. And it's not necessarily because they're bad at their job, it's just because they haven't been given the tools all the time to do their job properly. And executive decisions above and beyond them, and at, you know, at publisher level rather than their level, can have some really heavy implications on how their game comes across. And I mean, the last Shadow of Mordor was a fantastic game. I loved it. It was just a PR disaster because of, you know, these stupid barriers they put in. Now it looks like we're going to have the microtransactions potentially cause a problem. Like I say, as to whether it will or not, and to what extent, if it does, that's a whole other debate. But certainly the debacle with the charity DLC to help the family has not helped matters in the slightest. I mean, what's your experience, guys, with Warner Brother games in the past, out of interest?
Basically every Warner Brother game I've played was always broken for me. So, yeah, my experiences are really, really bad.
Yeah. What about you, Kev? Have you played any?
If I have, it was until like minimum a half a year after it's been released. So all of the bugs were already like nicked out. So none of the like, oh hey, on launch day this game was terrible, blah blah. I never really experienced any of that because I rarely get games on launch day. So I think the only WB game I've actually played was the first Shadow of Mordor game, and that was like sometime last year.
Yeah.
So I know I'm bad with these type of things, but at least I sort of played it once, kinda. So
Fair enough. Any comments, Richard?
Well, I mean, as Orician said, like, all Warner Brother games have been pretty much broken. Every single one I've played. I mean, they've got such good games though. That's the problem. Like, I want to love them because, like, Batman was great. Shadow of War was also Shadow of Mordor, awesome game.
like I say, Steam had to actually come out of their office and act on that one. Valve had to do something.
Well, yeah, they are the sole cause of
The
refunds.
But I'm
Steam.
glad, because we needed those. We
It's-
desperately needed those on Steam.
It's a good thing for us, but I mean, it shouldn't
Yeah,
have been.
it shouldn't have taken that
Yeah.
to make it happen. It should have been there from the beginning, regardless, because of consumer rights. But also, the fact that they pushed it that far, that Valve, the people that leave it and just let it
I think
get
it's because
on.
it was such a high profile.
It was so
franchise.
high, and also all the backlash on the media sites and everything about it. And people wanted to get it sorted. People wanted their money back because it was so bad.
Yeah.
It was bordering on like a case of, you've missold me a product because it is way, way, way off what it should be. So.
I have a question that I want to pose to everyone. Because I took a strong emphasis in marketing in college. I kind of have like a marketing mindset. So the way they approached it was, oh hey, small print, blah blah, with a DLC. Do you guys think they would have gotten more publicity or less publicity if they did things differently? Like, let's say they did everything right and said, okay, we have this $5 DLC, but people in Europe can't do it because of X, Y, and Z, and like all of this, and 100% is going to families. Do you think that would have gotten more people to know about the $5 DLC versus how they did it now? And what if they didn't even have the $5 DLC? Do you think more or less people would care about Shadow of Mordor game overall? Like, because I feel it as not the best marketing strategy, but it could have been a strategy, as in like, oh hey, free publicity from people making a big hubbub about a $5 DLC type of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but like I know the old saying is, any publicity is good publicity, which doesn't really hold water nowadays. But I mean, like, the good question is, does Warner Brothers even care what their consumers think now at this point? Because like Square Enix had that whole Deus Ex augment your pre-order rubbish that everyone hated, and it got shut down, and people were like outraged, and Square Enix reacted by shutting it off, taking that away, and then reevaluating. Warner Brothers has never really done that. They've never taken a step back and changed anything. So do they care or even want to learn from their mistakes? That's another question.
I think definitely from a psychological standpoint, because that's what my background is. People tend to have a focus on the negative, and people always want like really high drama, the really exaggerated, something to get angry about and get frustrated at keyboard, with. So I think getting the DLC out on more press outlets, I think they've definitely probably got more press coverage as a consequence, because people like to have a good rant, and find something to get angry about. I still think they would have got some press coverage regardless if they'd done it as included in the game or a DLC, but the pricing side of it changed. I think if it was included by default, I think the press coverage would have been way, way less. Unless they really pushed it, and put a lot of time and effort into it. Because it may have gone under the radar of some people entirely. Because, there's Easter eggs and things people have put into games before to kind of commemorate lost comrades and all the rest of it. And people, something that takes like 30 years for people to find it, or it's, even in the credits or something. And it just kind of gets, I don't want to say not acknowledged, because it does get acknowledged, but it's just kind of okay, it's there, and what,
Yeah, like, that's
it kind of
nice.
gets brushed under.
Moving
Do you know
on.
what I mean? I think they would have been better off not going for the negative. Regardless of whether that was their intention or not. I think they'd have far been better respecting his memory and doing a good job of it. Which I know Monolith has produced it well, that's fair enough. But I think by do a better job of it, I think from how they're going to deal with the money side of it, I think that would have been better to deal with that properly. I think the token gesture is still worth it because the family are going to benefit. I still would have liked to have seen perhaps some charities benefit as well, but I definitely don't think they'd have had the same level of coverage. I definitely don't think it's going to be the same. Will it impact on sales? I think potentially yes, because for me personally, I was already pissed off at what happened with the previous games, Shenanigans, even though it was a very good game. I did end up getting it in the end, but I got it at a discount at a much later date because I didn't feel after what they'd done that they should be rewarded for what they did by paying full price for it. But at the same time with this one, however, I fully would support the family and their situation. Like I say, I'm very sorry for them, and I'm very sorry for the developers, losing a comrade. Personally, I'm not inclined to buy the game as it currently stands with the situation. I still think the marketing material should have been clearer. The fact that they had to be outed essentially by the press, it's not a good situation, regardless of whether that's what their intention was or not. They've got the attention for definite, but I personally, if I'm going to get that game on moral game, I'd rather just donate to the family, to be honest, and go on their page that they've put up. I really want to play that game because I want to see what it's like and see how the developments have gone forward with that game, but I don't know. It's unlikely I'll get a press code for it, but do you really want to get a press code for a game where you don't morally agree with the way they've done certain things? It's difficult. It's difficult. So for now, I'm not requesting a press code for it. I am going to sit back and see what happens. Like I say, right now I'm inclined to donate to their page and leave it at that. Whether I will or not, I don't know. I'm going to see what happens. But yeah, from a press standpoint, I don't think it's gone the right way, personally. I'd far rather do the slightly quieter, less attention-grabbing thing, but do at least right by the developer, that's producing their content for them, and, if they want to keep them sweet, I'd far rather that. But yeah, I think by it being negative, they've definitely got more attention off the back of it. Whether that's a good thing or not, whole other debate. Anyway, what do you think, Orician?
I think that in this particular case, that 90% of the consumers won't even care about what happened. They just care about the stuff that they get, and that's it. So yeah. I do not think that this will impact anything at all.
Fair enough. What about on the press standpoint?
Every kind of publicity is good publicity, and that has been proven throughout all the years, actually, that games have been around. I mean, even if games got bad publicity, people just bought it because they wanted to check it out, how bad it was. I mean,
and a great example of that is not in gaming but in films. You get B movies, really bad B. Red Letter Media does, and I love watching their channel. I know Richard watches them a lot. There's a lot of other channels that do this where they deliberately pick out really terrible or low budget rubbish and they just have a laugh at it. And that's really fun. There's some entertainment to be had from that.
I think the best example in gaming is the whole No Man's Sky situation. It was terrible. People thought it was terrible when it came out, but still people bought it because they wanted to check out how bad it was.
True. They had a lot of refunds though in the first week. Absolutely colossal. I think a good example of a bad game where it's been overhyped and failed to deliver is Alien Colonial Marines.
Holy shit, that game was terrible.
Oh, it was beyond terrible. What was hilarious was there was a video on YouTube. There was a really old article. I think it was a Larry Bundy Jr. video or something. But it was talking about an old article in a magazine saying about how the next Alien game was going to be phenomenally superior to this one because of clunky controls, and the one that they had was just awful. Turns out that game got a really high score and was actually really beloved and is considered, I can't remember which one it was, but it was considered really, really in high regard. And then obviously like Colonial Marines got scrapped back then, and then they did some other stuff, and then they brought it back, and that's the iteration they did. But then it was just an absolute colossal screw up. It's just hilarious, absolutely hilarious. But yeah, how many people can you honestly think of that have bought that game going, yeah, I'm going to play that for how terrible it is? There's going to be some that would have. But me personally, I'd rather laugh at it watching it an online video than buy it, if that makes sense, in that situation.
I knew that game was bad when I went into my local game shop, and it was about 6 to 8 months after the release of it, and they were giving it away for 99p with any purchase. Genuinely. And that's how I first got it. And I was like, for 99p, I still felt ripped off.
That's bad. That's bad. Like I said, I've not touched that game, but I know all about its history and kind of like I'm a bit fuzzy on a few details, but oh my god,
maybe that's
it was
another
bad.
that's another episode with Gearbox, I think. With
God.
Randy Lai Pitchford.
dear Randy, will you come on the show? Please explain this to us, because what the fuck happened? Oh god, that would get really weird fast. Yeah, that would not be good. Alien Colonial Marines is so bad. Thing is, though, that Alien game that came out, the horror one, the really,
Isolation.
Isolation. That's it. Because I've got that. I still haven't played it. But my god, I was watching a streamer play. I can't remember. Dan's Gaming, I think it was. Oh my god, I was jumping out my chair. It was so fun. I loved watching it with him playing it. It was great. But that's what encouraged me to buy it, because then I realised how good it was. Because my faith, after I heard about the other ones debacle, I was like, nope, not touching them again. But yeah, no, it's supposed to be really good. And like I say, from what I've seen, oh my god, it had my spine tingling. It was amazing. It was great. I mean, there's some people that don't like that game because of the slow burn on it, and it's very dragged out, apparently. Yeah, I could imagine in long sessions that's gonna get really dragged out. But
yeah, but at least that game was good. Colonial Marines was like a knife in the back to every Aliens fan in the world.
I still need to watch the films. I still haven't watched them. We need to sit down and do that. For definite.
Community night.
Yes, yeah. I have a ton of stuff I want to watch. I want to watch Game of Thrones. I need to get caught up as well. It's a completely different topic. But anyway. Oh my god, I've got so much stuff to get caught up on. We should do Game of Thrones from beginning to end.
Sometime.
Legit. Just, sit and watch that. That'd be amazing.
I have friends that want me to do that. But anywho, back to the topic at hand.
Yeah, back to gaming, which is what we're supposed to be talking about.
Microtransactions in video games and the podcast.
Yeah, well, I think we've covered everything, really. Unless anyone's got anything they want to add. No?
No.
We're good?
Puppies.
Puppies, lovely. Okay. I think what we'll do, if it's alright with everyone, we're going to take a couple of minute break, go grab some drinks. Non-alcoholic, of course. And then we will get into... And then we'll get into the interview section with Orician, who is a wonderful music producer. And while we have a break, I'm actually going to put on some of his lovely tunes so you guys can enjoy. And we will be right back in 5 minutes. If you guys can click to tweet, that would be phenomenal. Thank you to everyone who's already shared with their friends. That's really, really much appreciated. But we'll smash on with the next section in 5 minutes' time. See you shortly, guys.
Yay.
Here we go. Right, so we're back, guys. Thank you for being patient. Hope you've had a nice little break. I've got my cup of tea, my Game of Thrones mug, which you can't really see. Lovely. Right.
Sponsored by Twinings.
If only. You're terrible, Richard. You're terrible. I get scared by you putting a can there because it's so close to my PC box. I'm just like, oh. So anyway. So let's get on with the next section of the show, which of course is interview with our lovely Orician, who, for those who don't know, that music as I mentioned before the break, for those who've just come in, was some of his music. Funnily enough, that was It's Time, which is an original mix of his. And yeah, we're just going to have a little discussion with him. Avid gamer, of course. But we'll talk a little bit about his music as well as background in gaming, if that's cool with you, Orician.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, okay. So should we get it started? Something really basic. So what was the gaming experience that got you really hooked on gaming, and why?
Game experience. I think it started for me. I believe it was or it was the first roller coaster game, or it was the first Age of Empires game.
Okay.
That's when I really started to get into gaming. And it was. It started to grow into a serious addiction really, really quickly. So that was kind of a problem. I needed to tone it down a little bit. But yeah, the RTS kind of games and the whole economics, the whole money management. There we go.
Management games.
Was really where I started.
What was it about those that attracted you into gaming specifically?
I don't know. I thought it was funny to see the little dudes chop down some trees.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean,
chopping trees have never been so mesmerizing.
You gotta keep in mind I was 6.
True,
okay?
True. I think everyone's attention span and fascination gets quite fixated at that age.
Hell yeah!
Awesome, man.
It's like,
It was
the pretty things.
awesome.
Just like they took an axe and they chopped the tree. It was so awesome.
I know, the
And
thing
they
is, though, you
ran
watch
back,
anyone do
it
that in
was
real life, it's the
awesome.
most boring thing ever. Unless you're really into wood. And I know that sounds really wrong. Sorry, that was the worst way to word that possibly. Unless you're
And
really
just got
into
demonetized on
lumberjacking, that
YouTube.
doesn't really sound any better.
Look, leave these jokes to Aisha Taylor.
Oh god, no. No, don't compare it to
Reasons
her,
why we can't
no.
have nice things.
Oh.
Sure.
I can't drink my cup of tea now because I'm laughing. Shush, Cap.
Well, that was
Ow!
it for today,
I
guys.
just hit my
Shar's
tooth on
broken.
it. Ooh.
This is the interview section, by the way.
I know. Sorry, we're gonna carry on
This
now.
is the professional portion of the podcast.
Right, let's go. Right, favorite 3 games of all time. Go,
favorite
Orician,
3
go.
games of all time. Mass Effect, Age of Empires 2, and Guild Wars 2.
Fair enough. Any particular reasons for those 3?
Mass Effect because the story is absolutely amazing. Except for the last one. That one is absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Age of Empires 2 mainly because of the whole. It was the first game that I actually played multiplayer, so it has a really, really big nostalgic value to me. And Guild Wars 2 because I absolutely love multiplayer RPGs. It's the whole community around role-playing games is. There's no better community around any kind of genre than the whole MMORPG.
Okay, fair enough. If you could change anything about the games industry, what would it be?
I would get rid of EA.
Just outright ban them.
Yes.
It's one way to go. Like, you're out, you're fired.
Yeah. Once they
Just
get
some
involved,
Dragon's Den on their ass as well.
Hell
Just be
yeah,
like,
once
no,
they-
I'm not invested.
once they get involved with the development process of a game, it's gone. It's done.
Tainted as far as you're concerned.
Fuck yeah.
Okay, I'll never buy you an EA game as a birthday present then. That's one to note down.
Well, I mean, I don't mind the games, but they just get way too involved with the new releases. It's absolutely terrible.
Okay. Oh, okay, so moving on a little bit now to just like the music side of things, because obviously that's what you're really, really into, and that's what
Don't
you do on
know
a
shit
day-to-day
about that.
basis. Huh?
Don't know anything about that. I got my people for that.
So let's start with how you got into music production initially.
How got I into it?
How did you get into it? Yeah, when did you get into it? That kind of thing.
Well, I dropped out of school, and because I was underage, I was still required by law to go to school. So I went to a little, yeah, it's a class that makes you flow back into essentially college.
Right, so like a reintroduction
And
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there was this really weird looking dude that was playing around with music software, and I thought it was fascinating. He was making music on his PC, and I didn't know it was freaking possible. By just clicking some things, and you got a freaking song. It was absolutely amazing. So I started messing around with that program, and I created an absolutely terrible track. Absolutely horrible. It sounds. I believe it's still somewhere on Newgrounds. I don't know if you guys know that website,
Yeah.
but that was the place to be for music back then. And it's horrible. I think I can find it for you guys later. But it was so much fun to put so much time into a track and so much feeling into a track, and then you have a fucking song. There's nothing better than making a track and have other people enjoy it. There's no better feeling in the world. So I started experimenting with that, and back in those years I had a severe depression, and music actually got me out of it. I found I could put all my feelings into music, and it helped me. So I kept developing the skills. And that's kind of how I got started.
Right, fair enough. So again, it kind of answers what I'm going to go on to next, is what drew you to it, really. So it's obviously your early experiences with your situation in school.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. Well, particularly this genre was so dance, basically trance music was played by my older brother.
Okay.
Since always, actually, since dance music has been around. Back in the days, it came from Germany and stuff. My brother always played it, and he had these mixing pedals, and that's kind of what got me interested in this genre, and why I chose it. It's just something that I got from growing up.
Fair enough. Is there a particular aspect of music production that drew you to it? That got you really, really heavily engaged?
God, it's almost you will almost get into some kind of trance when you're sitting behind your PC and just making stuff out of nothing. You're literally making a complete track out of absolutely nothing. You got nothing in your hands. You just got a blank screen, and you're making music. The feeling is undescribable.
Fair enough. For those who are interested in music, I think this will be particularly interesting for them. But what software, what combination of software do you use for your music production?
The program that I'm using the studio program that I'm using is called FL Studio 12, Fruit Loop Studio. And inside of that program, you have different plugins that and synthesizers that you use to create certain sounds. And the main plugin that I'm using is Spire at the moment. That's a synthesizer that's so easy to use, but it's so widespread in God, I can't even find words.
Highly available?
Versatile.
It's so, indeed, there you go. It's so versatile. It's incredible.
Fair enough. Is there anything you used to use that you've kind of moved away from?
I used to use not when it comes to studio software.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to a plugin, I used to use Citrus. It's one of the plugins that come with FL Studio,
Oh, okay.
and it's a good synthesizer, but yeah, it's kind of free, so
Mm. Does that have some sort of limitation with it?
it has a lot of limitations.
Okay. Cool. How long does it typically take you to make a piece? And what's the kind of
That's
process behind it?
that's a really difficult question because a track can be made in literally an hour. Um, and some tracks that I've made are literally made in 1 to 2 hours. But I've also tracks that I'm still working on, and I've been working on them for the past 5 to 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it depends on timing and inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you're working on a track, you just have it, you just get it, and the inspiration keeps flowing. And I've had times where I'm just working on a track, it sounds absolutely amazing, and then the next day you fire it up and it's like, why the hell did I make this crap? It sounds absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I
So,
think I kind of know where you're coming from. Like, for me, with building in Minecraft, because that's what I do. Like, I have days where I have a complete blockage, and then
Yeah,
other days where it
yeah.
just flows, and that's like knocking work out like no tomorrow.
I think everyone that's being creative has this problem.
Mm. Yeah, kind of like the writer's block scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I'm a filmmaker, my background, so I make films in my spare time. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've all got a bit of shared experience in that respect. Fair enough. What does the process behind the music production look like? Where do you kind of start, and how does it follow through for those that are kind of interested in the technical side of music production?
Um, the process. Well, when I build a track, I always start with an atmospheric sound. So I always make sure the atmosphere is right of the track, and most of the time I just get the inspiration for the atmosphere from listening to other tracks, and mainly the weather actually. It helps a lot to set the mood. So once I have the atmosphere, I start working on the bass and the melody, and once those are together, I actually start taking them apart again and build up the track from nothing.
Okay. Then once you've kind of built it, is there like a process after that where you add more effects, more layers, or
Yeah, the
little tweaking?
once you build a track, the building of a track is actually really simple, and you you can get it done in a couple minutes. Um, I spend most time at mixing and mastering. That's what you call it.
Okay.
So it's making the final mix. It's making sure the sounds don't clash with each other. Um, Making sure the quality of the track is actually good enough to be published. That can take. These days, I will take at least a week for one track to mix and master.
Fair enough. What do you personally find to be the trickiest aspect of music production?
The trickiest aspect. The trickiest thing is not to repeat yourself. It's so easy to repeat something that you've already done. Um, you want to keep innovating and want to keep making sure that your stuff is still relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really difficult, especially in a time and age where we live, with almost every song being dance music.
Yeah, that amalgamation of pop and dance and
Yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of formulaic stuff now, especially in the mainstream.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of stuff is already being done, or yeah, it's difficult to do something new.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Looking at obviously the way you've come into fruition, and also, I mean, I came across you through streaming, really, didn't I? So, your music being on other channels, and we kind of got talking. Which kind of leads me on to my next point. Like, I know you work with a lot of streamers and YouTubers.
Yeah.
To provide, content, audio content for free, much like we're using today on the podcast. There's tons of streams out there on Twitch. I know Cyanide and a bunch of others have used your music in the past. What would you say is the biggest challenge that comes to the table when working with streamers and YouTube, but also the most rewarding part of doing so?
The biggest challenge is to keep your music in their playlist. Because so many artists, so many musicians are currently working on Twitch and on YouTube, which was not the case when I started there.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot more narrow when I came across you. I mean, 2011, 2012.
The big labels have already also started taking ground on Twitch and on YouTube. So it's really difficult to stay in their playlist. But the most rewarding part of that is that you get instant feedback from the streamers and the viewers. And sometimes it can actually help you develop better tracks. It's really it's not as nasty and mean as people think that Twitch is, actually.
That's good to know. I'm sure a lot of people will hopefully feel encouraged by that, for any aspiring music people out there.
I hope so.
Want to get started.
It's a great platform to get started.
Yeah. And on that note, actually, are there any good resources you can recommend out there that will give people kind of a jump start, a 101 to how to get into this, to get the basics? Is there anything you can recommend?
Basics to making music?
Yeah, like a resource or a guide or.
No, not really. I always say that if you want to make music, then just get going. Play with the program. Take your time. Get to know the program that you're using. Your first track is gonna be shit. Your second track is also gonna be crap. You make at least 20 tracks until you actually start making it public. Because the first 20, 30 tracks are absolutely shit, and I've had this problem as well. I started to publish my work too soon. But take your time making music, and once you think your tracks are actually good enough and you start to publish them, don't be worried about the haters. I've actually got the advice from well-established producers and DJs that saying that if you like your own work, others will like it as well. You will always have the people that will hate it, but even if one person will like it, work's worth it. And if you really want to get going, there's one particular program that I can really recommend to get your music out there on Twitch. It's actually Pretzel Rocks.
The extension that they've recently added. Yeah.
They're absolutely amazing people. The artists that are working with them are so supportive. The development team behind Pretzel Rocks is also experienced in the music industry, so they know what they're talking about. They can give you feedback on your work. Just don't be afraid to show what you've made, and don't be stupid enough to ignore the feedback that you get, because it's so valuable.
Mm-hmm. It's great, and that kind of actually leads on to kind of where I want to go next with this, actually. Obviously, everyone's human, everybody makes mistakes. If you could give any advice to someone who's just starting out to avoid a mistake you've made or something you've learned over the course of your experience of doing this, what would it be?
Um,
Something super
the
important, you think?
the biggest mistake that you can make is just not doing anything you want to do. I mean, that's something that keeps people from going into music is being scared to do it. Don't be scared to do what you want to do. It's so much talent is being lost because they are afraid to show what they got.
Mm-hmm. So just give it a go, basically.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So looking at what you've recently done, do you want to just kind of give people a flavour of your recent work that's been published, as well as kind of what's coming up for you in the very near future?
Sure. I can send you a link with actually an unreleased track that I've been experimenting with.
Oh, okay.
So
Do
give
you
me
want
a
me to
second.
share that with chat?
No, the link cannot be shared yet
No. Okay,
because
that's
it's still
fine.
private.
Yeah, for those actually interested, while Orician's fetching that, you can actually find Orician's work on SoundCloud, and you can also find his official YouTube channel here, which has all his stuff too. And he's also on Twitch. You do the occasional music production live stream,
Yes.
don't you?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so if you want to get engaged in music production or ask more questions, that's a really, really good space to ask. And you can also find Orician on Twitter too. So if you've got any questions, or you want to find more of his work or have a discussion, you can always find him there at Orician as well. So it's a really
Well, not
good
only
spot.
questions. I mean, even if you get started into music or you feel like getting started, don't be afraid to hit me up. I've helped several people now to get that started into music,
Mhm.
and I will actually help you with your first track. I will give you feedback. I will, if it's good enough, I will help you publish it even.
That's super, super awesome. I think having more people that are willing to mentor and help out is a really, really important thing, especially with how swamped it is, even if you just look at YouTube and Twitch specifically.
Yeah,
So
and
it's great to
that's
have some guidance.
it sure is, and that's the beautiful thing about music, that most of the artists are always willing to help out beginners.
Mhm.
It's such a welcoming community.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. But yeah, if you want to drop me that example, that'd be fab. I assume you don't want that played on stream though today. It's private and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah, the link must stay private.
Yeah, okay. I'll keep that for later then. I'll check that out in a bit. In the meantime though, what are kind of your plans moving forward?
Currently the plans are I can't say too much.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I'm working on a new album which I announced 2 months ago or something.
Yeah.
I started working on it, which I hope will be done next year or something, and at the end of next year.
Mhm.
And I'm talking with some established producers and DJs about about just about the future. You never know what comes out of it.
Mm.
And currently I'm just focusing on the Amsterdam Dance event, which is coming soon.
Yeah. How far off is that then? You said it's.
That's like halfway October.
Ah, okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. Is there an events page for that?
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
If you Google for the Amsterdam Dance event, there's so many things that are going on that we.
Yeah, well, hopefully, like I say, if anyone wants to pop down there when that happens, you just casually rock up.
A lot of workshops as well, so.
Yeah, so, but you know, that's another good event if you want to go see Orician's work and talk to other people that are in that industry. It's a good place to find people. So
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, if you just happen to be knocking about Amsterdam. So it's okay. That's about it really for my questions. Anyone else got any questions? Anyone from chat as well? We can pose any questions to Orician. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
Richard's go on. Go ahead.
Okay. This might be tough for you, but name your top 3 video game soundtracks of all time.
Ooh.
I have no idea what the names are of these tracks.
Okay, just tell us the games.
Yeah, just what
I
game?
think my all-time favorite soundtrack is by I don't even know if it's by Big Giant Circles, but it's from Mass Effect 2.
Oh yeah, that is a good soundtrack.
It's the once you hear it, you will recognize it immediately. Probably from Dragon Age Inquisition as well. It's you will hear it in the menu. It's iconic. And Age of Empires 2, of course. Once you hear it,
Yeah.
you will have it stuck in
Age
your
of
head
Empire
for the
one
next
sticks with
next
me.
2 months or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Anything else you want to ask? No?
No.
What about you, Kev?
All right, I have 2 questions. One's more music, techie side. The other one's not so much. First one is really simple. Do you play any instruments?
No, I can't even
Okay.
read notes. So yeah.
Okay. So that sort of answers my next one. Is like when making music, you mentioned that you work on the bass line and melody as one of the first things. Do you pay attention to like augmenting things? I'm not even sure if augmenting different chords is a thing in this type of music, or do you pay attention to chord progression, or the reason why I asked this stuff is because I took a few music theory classes in college, so I know some of the like progression or natural progression of some music, if that makes sense. So I was wondering, like, do you pay attention to like, okay, so it's this chord, so I could either like augment this chord, or oh hey, since the last 2 chords were like this, the next one kind of has to be kind of like this, or for it to sound right, or
Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes, especially when it comes to a bass line, it's really important that you won't keep the same 3-4 notes throughout the whole track. It's really important that you play a little bit with it. So once for example, once the string section goes down a couple of notes, you will just pump up the bass line, like, I don't know, 2-3 octaves. No, octaves are a bit much. 2-3 notes actually. Just so there is a little bit of a difference in sound.
yeah.
I don't really watch it. I just do what sounds best because, like I said, I don't read notes. I don't know anything about music theory. Everything I do is by ear.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's for me.
That's everything. Alright, so I think we'll round that up there then.